At the surface, the ocean is loud in a gentle way. Waves slap, gulls argue, boats hum like distracted bees. Sunlight dances everywhere, breaking into glittering shards that make the water feel alive and busy. But the moment we begin our descent, that noise starts to thin out. Not all at once. Slowly. Politely. As if the ocean is asking us to lower our voice because something important is about to happen. If this calm descent into the deep ocean helps you unwind tonight, consider liking the video, subscribing to the Deep Sea Documentary channel, and leaving a comment telling us when and where you're listening, so this quiet journey can reach more listeners who fall asleep to science. The first few meters feel familiar. This is the ocean from postcards. Blue water, drifting shapes, flashes of silver as fish turn their sides. But gravity starts to remind us who is in charge. With every meter downward, the water presses in just a little more, like a firm hand on your shoulder saying, "Keep going, but understand where you are now." The sunlight still reaches us here, but it feels less confident, stretched thin, like it already knows it will not win this argument. As we sink further, the surface becomes a memory rather than a place. The ripples and reflections blur into a bright ceiling far above, and the ocean around us changes personality. The water is no longer playful. It is calm, deliberate, and deeply uninterested in our schedule. This is where the idea of a quiet journey truly begins. Not quiet as in peaceful music quiet. Quiet as in the kind of silence that makes you aware of your own breathing, your own thoughts, and the fact that humans did not evolve for this. Sound behaves strangely here. At the surface, it bounces and echoes, full of life. As we descend, it stretches out, travels farther, but feels emptier. There is no crashing, no wind, no splash. Just a steady, patient stillness. It is the kind of silence that does not feel empty, but full. Like a room where something important has happened, and the walls are still remembering it. The pressure, meanwhile, does not care about your feelings. It builds invisibly, stacking itself layer upon layer. You cannot see it, but you feel it in the way everything becomes heavier, denser, more serious. The deep ocean does not rush. It applies pressure the way a glacier moves. Slowly, constantly, with absolute confidence that it will win. And it does, always. As the light continues to fade, colors begin to soften. Not disappear yet, just quiet down. Brightness gives way to muted tones, as if the ocean is slowly dimming the lights for a show that only a few creatures will attend. This is the moment where the sea starts to feel less like water and more like space. There is the same sense of isolation, the same awareness that you are suspended in something vast, something that does not notice you unless you make a mistake. And yet, this descent is not threatening, not exactly. There is no dramatic music swelling, no monster lunging from the dark. Instead, there is a feeling of being invited into a place that exists perfectly well without us. The deep ocean does not perform. It does not try to impress. It simply is, which somehow makes it more intimidating than anything loud or aggressive ever could. Time also begins to feel different. Without waves or wind or sun, there are fewer cues to mark moments Seconds stretch. Thoughts slow. The descent becomes almost meditative, like sinking into a dream where gravity has opinions. You start to understand why scientists describe the deep ocean with words like alien and otherworldly, not because it is chaotic, but because it is controlled. Every movement matters. Every decision has weight, literally. Far above, the surface continues its noisy routine, completely unaware of how quickly it has been forgotten. Down here, the ocean wraps around you in a way that feels ancient. This water has been here longer than memory, longer than stories. It has pressed down on mountains, carved continents, and watched species come and go without commentary. If the ocean could speak, it would probably say nothing at all. Silence is its native language, and that is the true beginning of our journey. Not with a spectacle, but with subtraction. Less light, less sound, less motion, until what remains is a vast, hushed world that feels both empty and impossibly full. A place where the rules are different, patience is mandatory, and the sea stops pretending to be friendly. Welcome to the descent. The deep ocean has been waiting, and it is very good at waiting. Light feels permanent at the surface. It pours down from the sun like an unlimited resource, splashing across waves and bouncing off everything in sight. It is so abundant that we rarely think about it as something that could run out. But the ocean treats light very differently. To the sea, light is not a guarantee. It is a visitor. And like all visitors, it does not stay long. As soon as sunlight hits the water, it begins to change. Water is not empty space. It is crowded with molecules, tiny particles, and drifting bits of organic matter, all of which interact with light in their own subtle ways. Every meter downward becomes a negotiation. Some wavelengths push through, others are stopped almost immediately, absorbed by the water, as if the ocean quietly pockets them and says thank you very much. The first colour to disappear is red. This surprises people because red feels bold and powerful. It is the colour of warning signs, stoplights, and dramatic sports cars. But underwater, red is fragile. Within just a few meters, red light is gone. Absorbed so efficiently that red objects begin to look grey or black. A bright red fish near the surface becomes a shadowy shape below, like it forgot to load its texture pack. Next to fade are oranges and yellows. These warmer colours follow red into oblivion, slipping away layer by layer. The ocean does this calmly and without ceremony. There is no line where orange officially stops existing. It simply becomes less itself until one moment it is there, and the next moment it is not. Green light lasts longer, holding on as if it is unsure whether to leave the party yet. Blue, however, is stubborn. Blue light has shorter wavelengths that scatter more easily through water, allowing it to travel deeper than any other colour. This is why the ocean looks blue from above and blue from below. It is not because the ocean loves blue. It is because blue refuses to leave. If colours had personalities, blue would be the one saying, "I can make it. Just give me a little more depth." As we descend, the world slowly reorganizes itself around this shrinking colour palette. What once looked vibrant becomes muted. Details soften. Contrast fades. Eventually everything is filtered through shades of blue and grey. as if the ocean has applied a very dramatic color correction and forgotten where it put the saturation slider. This loss of color is not just visual. It reshapes how life is perceived. Objects blend together more easily. Shadows stretch and blur. Shapes matter more than patterns. Movement becomes the most important signal because color can no longer be trusted to tell the full story. The ocean is quietly teaching a lesson here. When information becomes scarce, you learn to read what remains. What makes this process even more fascinating is that it is incredibly consistent. No matter where you are in the open ocean, the same rules apply. The same wavelengths vanish in the same order. It is one of the few places on Earth where physics runs the show with such reliability. Gravity may wobble your expectations on land, but underwater, light follows the rules with impressive discipline. Eventually, even blue begins to struggle. It grows dimmer, thinner, less convincing. The water ahead no longer looks illuminated so much as vaguely suggested. This is the point where sunlight is no longer the dominant force. It has done what it can, and now it fades into irrelevance. The ocean does not announce this moment. There is no dramatic cutoff. Light simply becomes insufficient. At this depth, vision shifts from seeing colors to detecting contrast. Brightness matters more than hue. The difference between slightly lighter and slightly darker becomes meaningful. This is why the deep ocean feels so unfamiliar to human eyes. We evolved in a world where color does a lot of work for us. Remove it, and suddenly our visual system feels like it showed up to a test it did not study for. There is something quietly humbling about watching light disappear this way. The sun is unimaginably powerful, yet the ocean absorbs it, layer by layer, with patient efficiency. No resistance, no drama, just gradual surrender. It is a reminder that even the most dominant forces on the surface become temporary guests once they enter the sea. And by the time light is reduced to a faint suggestion of brightness, the ocean has already moved on. It does not need color. It does not depend on visibility. It simply allows light to exist for as long as physics permits, then continues on exactly as it always has. The brightness slider reaches zero. The last traces of color slip away, and the ocean forgets light ever existed. There is a depth in the ocean where day and night stop meaning what they used to. The sun has not vanished completely, but it has been reduced to a weak, filtered presence, like a memory of light rather than the real thing. This region is known as the twilight zone, and it exists in a state of eternal dusk. Not sunrise, not sunset, just a long, endless in-between where shadows rule and brightness is always suspicious. In this world, light does not shine so much as it leaks. It arrives scattered and diluted, barely enough to outline shapes. The ocean here feels like it is holding its breath. Above, the surface still sparkles. Below, darkness waits patiently. And in between, life has settled into a strange compromise with visibility. Animals in the twilight zone do not see the way we do. They cannot rely on crisp images or vibrant colors. Instead, they have evolved eyes that seem almost comically large compared to their bodies. These oversized eyes are not a fashion statement. They are survival tools. Bigger eyes mean more surface area to capture the tiny amount of available light, like opening every window in a house during a power outage, just to catch a hint of glow from the street outside. Some fish here have eyes so large that they dominate the head, leaving barely any room for anything else. It looks excessive, but in this environment, Subtle differences in brightness can mean the difference between spotting food and becoming it. When light is scarce, vision becomes a numbers game. Collect every photon you can and hope it adds up to something useful. The twilight zone is also where silhouettes become more important than details. Animals often look upward rather than around, scanning the faintly brighter water above them. Anything swimming between them and the remaining light becomes visible as a dark shape. This has shaped behavior in fascinating ways. Predators and prey alike have learned that being seen from below is a constant risk. So many species keep their profiles thin or transparent, trying to become as visually uninteresting as possible. Movement is cautious here. Fast, erratic motion draws attention. Slow, deliberate drifting blends into the background. Many creatures appear almost lazy, but this is not about conserving energy just yet. It is about staying unnoticed in a place where there is nowhere to hide, only places to fade. The animals of the twilight zone also tend to have highly sensitive vision tuned specifically to the kind of light that still exists. Their eyes are not general purpose, they are specialists, optimized for this dim, bluish world. Imagine wearing night vision goggles all the time, except they are biological, built into your face, and you were born with them. That is the level of commitment we are talking about. But vision is not just about seeing food. It is also about avoiding becoming food. In the twilight zone, encounters happen suddenly. A shadow appears where there was none before. A shape moves slightly faster than the background. There is no warning music. There is no time to think. Eyes must be ready at all times, scanning, comparing, interpreting minimal information at maximum speed. This constant visual tension creates a strange atmosphere. The twilight zone is not chaotic, but it is alert. Life here feels like it is always listening with its eyes. Nothing is relaxed. Nothing is fully at ease. The environment does not allow it. The darkness is never complete enough to feel safe, and the light is never strong enough to feel comfortable. Even the water itself seems different. Particles drifting through the twilight zone catch what little light remains, creating a faint, snow-like effect. Every speck becomes a potential distraction. Animals must learn to distinguish between meaningless debris and something that matters. It is a visual puzzle with very high stakes. And yet, this zone is full of life. It is not a barren halfway point between surface and abyss. It is one of the most populated regions of the ocean. The reason is simple. It sits at a crossroads. It receives just enough light to support complex visual systems, but it also offers enough darkness to hide in. It is a compromise that many species have learned to exploit. Living here requires constant adjustment. Eyes grow larger, bodies become sleeker, behavior becomes more cautious. The twilight zone does not forgive inefficiency. It rewards those who can make the most out of very little. In this place, evolution has taken the dimmer switch of reality and said, figure it out. And figure it out they have. The animals of the twilight zone are not struggling. They are thriving, perfectly tuned to a world of half light and half shadow. When rent is darkness, you do not complain. You adapt, you evolve massive eyes, and you learn to live comfortably in the glow that barely exists. Pressure is one of those things that sounds abstract until it decides to introduce itself personally. At the surface, we live under a blanket of air that presses down on us constantly, but we never notice it. Our bodies are built for it. The deep sea, however, upgrades that blanket into something more like a stack of extremely determined mattresses, all insisting on being felt at once. As you descend into the ocean, pressure increases steadily and without negotiation. Water is heavy. Each layer stacks on top of the next, and the deeper you go, the more weight you carry above you. There is no sudden moment where pressure turns on. It builds gradually, like a very slow, very confident handshake that never lets go. A helpful way to imagine this is with elephants. Not one elephant, several. And they are not politely standing nearby. They are standing directly on your head, and they are not taking turns. The deeper you go, the more elephants join the pile. Eventually, it is less like a circus act and more like a very unfair physics demonstration. For humans, this kind of pressure is a problem. Our bodies contain air-filled spaces that do not appreciate being squeezed. Lungs, ears, sinuses, all of them protest loudly. Equipment built for the surface crumples like aluminum cans when exposed to the deep. This is why deep-sea exploration requires thick-walled submersibles and engineering that borders on paranoia. The ocean is not trying to crush you personally, it just happens to be very good at it. Deep-sea animals, on the other hand, could not care less. Pressure is their normal. They are not resisting it. They are cooperating with it. Instead of rigid structures that would snap or collapse, many deep-sea creatures have soft, flexible bodies that compress easily. There is nothing for pressure to break when everything is already willing to bend. Their tissues are adapted to function perfectly under immense weight. The chemistry inside their cells is stable in conditions that would instantly damage surface-dwelling organisms. Proteins keep their shape, membranes stay intact. Everything operates as expected, even while carrying the equivalent of an elephant convention overhead. One of the most important differences is the absence of trapped air. Air is compressible, which makes it vulnerable. Many deep-sea animals simply do not use it. No air-filled lungs, no gas pockets. Instead, they rely on dissolved oxygen and fluid-filled structures that do not mind being squeezed. Pressure can push all it wants. There is nothing there to collapse. Bones also tell a different story down here. Some deep-sea creatures have lighter skeletons or reduced bone density, while others rely more on cartilage-like structures. This makes their bodies less brittle and more adaptable. When pressure increases, they do not crack. They adjust. It is not strength in the muscular sense. It is structural wisdom. What is especially fascinating is how unremarkable this is to the animals themselves. Pressure is not an obstacle they think about. It does not factor into their daily decisions. They hunt, drift, feed, and reproduce without ever acknowledging the crushing force surrounding them. To them, this is not extreme. This is just how the world works. If you could somehow interview a deep-sea fish about pressure, it would probably look at you with confusion. Pressure, it might say, if it could talk. Do you mean the water? For these creatures, pressure is as invisible and uninteresting as air pressure is to us. The only reason it feels dramatic is because we are visitors from a softer world. This difference in perspective highlights something important about life in the deep ocean. Survival here is not about fighting the environment. It is about fitting into it so completely that the environment stops being a problem. The ocean does not reward resistance. It rewards accommodation. Pressure also shapes behavior in subtle ways. Movement tends to be smoother, slower, more deliberate. Rapid, jerky motion wastes energy and serves no purpose. When the water itself is pushing in from all directions, efficiency becomes a lifestyle choice. Everything is streamlined, calm, and economical. Despite its crushing nature, pressure creates stability. The deep ocean does not experience storms or waves the way the surface does. There is no turbulence shaking things apart. In its own heavy way, the deep sea is consistent. Once you are adapted to the pressure, the world becomes predictably solid. So while the idea of immense pressure makes humans nervous, for deep sea creatures, it is background noise. It is the weight of home. Several elephants standing on your head sounds unbearable, unless you were born under them, evolved under them, and never knew a world where they were not there. In that case, it is not an emergency. It is just another Tuesday. In a place where sunlight has officially given up, darkness does not get the final word. Instead, the deep ocean invents its own version of light. Bioluminescence is the ability of living organisms to produce light through chemical reactions inside their bodies, and in the deep sea, it is everywhere. If the surface ocean is lit by the sun, the deep ocean is lit by life itself, one tiny glow at a time. The process behind bioluminescence is elegant and efficient. Special molecules react with oxygen, releasing energy in the form of light instead of heat. This matters because heat would be wasted energy down here. Light, however, is information. It can warn, attract, confuse, or deceive. In the deep ocean, information is power. Many animals use bioluminescence as a hunting tool. A small, glowing lure can appear in the darkness like a floating snack, drifting innocently and asking to be investigated. Curious prey moves closer, thinking it has found food, only to discover that it has, in fact, found a mouth. It is a strategy built on optimism and poor decision-making, which is a surprisingly reliable formula. Others use light to avoid becoming food. A sudden flash can startle a predator, creating a moment of confusion just long enough to escape. Some species release glowing clouds into the water, essentially throwing a luminous smoke bomb and slipping away, while the attacker stares at the light like it owes them an explanation. Then there is counter-illumination, one of the deep sea's cleverest visual tricks. Some animals produce light on their undersides that matches the faint glow coming from above. When viewed from below, they blend into the background, erasing their silhouette. It is camouflage, but backward. Instead of hiding in shadows, they erase shadows entirely. The ocean looked at invisibility and said, "Let's make it glow." Bioluminescence is also used for communication. In the deep sea, shouting is inefficient and color is unreliable, but light cuts through darkness beautifully. Short flashes, steady glows, or patterned pulses can send messages across the water. Some species have distinct light signatures, like glowing fingerprints, allowing them to recognize their own kind in the dark. And yes, bioluminescence plays a role in romance. In a world where seeing someone is half the challenge, glowing becomes a very effective way to say hello. Light patterns can signal readiness, identity, or simply existence. It is the deep sea version of dressing up for a night out, except your outfit is a biochemical reaction and the dance floor is pitch black. What makes bioluminescence even more impressive is how controlled it is. These animals are not glowing all the time, like forgotten porch lights. They can switch their light on and off with precision, adjust its intensity, and even change how it spreads. Some focus it into narrow beams, while others diffuse it softly into the surrounding water. This is not random sparkle. It is deliberate design. The colors of bioluminescence are usually blue or green because those wavelengths travel farthest in water. The deep ocean has already established which colors work best, and life has taken notes. There is no point in glowing red if no one can see it. Evolution is practical like that. Bioluminescence also creates moments of unexpected beauty. Entire schools of animals can light up in response to movement, turning the water into a swirling galaxy of sparks. A single disturbance can set off a chain reaction, each glow triggering another until the darkness feels alive. It is one of the rare times the deep ocean puts on a show, and it does so without an audience. What is remarkable is how widespread this ability is. Bioluminescence has evolved independently in many different groups, which means the ocean kept arriving at the same idea over and over again. When light disappears, making your own becomes an obvious solution. Glow sticks were not an invention, they were a rediscovery. This living light transforms the deep sea from a place of absence into a place of subtle presence. Darkness is no longer empty. It is active, responsive, and full of signals waiting to be interpreted. Every glow means something. Every flash has a purpose. Nothing is wasted. In the deep ocean, light is no longer something that falls from the sky. It is something that swims, drifts, pulses, and blinks. It hunts and hides. It warns and invites. It flirts. And it reminds us that when the sun steps aside, life does not stop. It simply lights itself. Every evening, just as the sun begins to slip away from the surface of the ocean, something extraordinary begins to happen far below. It does not make headlines. It does not cause waves. Most people on land have absolutely no idea it is occurring. And yet, it is the largest daily movement of living organisms on the entire planet. The deep ocean quietly clocks in for its commute. This event is known as daily vertical migration, and it involves billions upon billions of animals moving upward through the water column under the cover of darkness. Small fish, shrimp-like creatures, and countless drifting organisms rise hundreds of meters toward the surface, forming a living tide that moves with remarkable coordination. When morning comes, they reverse direction and sink back into the depths, as if nothing happened. The timing is everything. These animals are not following a clock in the human sense. They are responding to changes in light. As evening arrives and the surface dims, the risk of being seen decreases. Darkness becomes a protective shield. That is their cue. Up they go. Near the surface at night, food is more plentiful. Tiny plant-like organisms drift and multiply in the upper layers of the ocean, and this creates a nightly buffet. By rising under darkness, migrating animals can feed while minimizing their chances of being spotted by visual predators. It is a careful balance between hunger and survival, and evolution has tuned it to near perfection. As dawn approaches, the light returns, and with it, danger. The same animals that rose so confidently hours earlier begin their descent, sinking back into darker waters before daylight fully arrives. The timing is precise. Leave too early, and you miss valuable feeding time. Leave too late, and you risk becoming breakfast. The deep ocean does not forgive poor scheduling. What makes this migration truly mind-blowing is its scale. The combined mass of animals participating is enormous. If you could gather them all in one place, the biomass would rival that of the largest herds on land. But instead of spreading across plains or skies, this movement happens vertically, silently, through the water. It is a planetary phenomenon unfolding every single night. From a distance, this migration can even be detected by scientific instruments because the sheer number of bodies moving upward and downward reflects sound waves. To sonar systems, it looks like the ocean itself is breathing, expanding and contracting on a daily rhythm. The deep sea has a pulse, and this is it. For the animals involved, this is not a dramatic journey. It is routine. They are born into it, shaped by it, and guided by instincts so deeply ingrained they may as well be gravity. There is no leader, no signal to start moving. Each individual responds to the same environmental cues, and the result is a perfectly synchronized mass movement that looks planned, even though it is entirely decentralized. This migration also plays a quiet but powerful role in the ocean's larger systems. By feeding near the surface and returning to depth, these animals transport organic material downward. Waste, nutrients, and carbon are carried into deeper waters, effectively linking surface processes with the deep ocean. It is a natural conveyor belt, moving material from the top of the sea to its darker layers, night after night. Despite its importance, this migration remains largely invisible to humans. It happens while most of us are asleep, and even if we were watching the ocean surface, we would see nothing. The movement is vertical, hidden beneath the waves. The ocean keeps its secrets well. There is something poetic about this unseen routine. While cities glow and roads fill with traffic, the largest commute on Earth is happening quietly beneath the surface. No horns, no rush hours, just a slow, steady rise and fall, guided by light and darkness. This daily journey has been happening for millions of years. Long before humans tracked time or built calendars, the ocean had already established its schedule. Sunset means up, sunrise means down. Simple rules, followed by countless lives, creating a global pattern that never stops. The deep ocean may feel still and unchanging, but this migration reveals its hidden motion. Beneath the calm surface and the crushing depths, life is constantly on the move. A living elevator system, carrying the ocean's smallest travelers up and down, reminding us that even in the quietest places on Earth, there is a rhythm, a routine, and a nightly rush that no one ever sees. In the deep ocean, food is not something you chase across open space or stumble upon by accident. Food is something you wait for. Down here, meals arrive slowly, unpredictably, and often in pieces, so small they barely seem worth the effort. This is a world where abundance is rare, and patience is not a virtue. It is a requirement. The primary source of food in the deep sea is something known as marine snow. Despite the cozy name, this is not a winter wonderland. Marine snow is a continuous drizzle of organic material that sinks from the upper ocean. It is made of dead microscopic organisms, bits of waste, discarded shells, and fragments of once living things. Essentially, it is what remains after life near the surface finishes using what it can. These particles fall gently through the water column, drifting downward at different speeds depending on their size and shape. Some pieces sink quickly, while others spiral slowly, taking days or even weeks to reach the deep ocean. By the time marine snow arrives, It has been recycled multiple times, stripped of its richest energy. What remains is still valuable, but only just. To humans, this would look like crumbs. To deep-sea animals, it is dinner. Because marine snow is sparse and unreliable, deep-sea creatures have evolved to make the most of every particle. Many have slow metabolisms, meaning they do not burn energy quickly. They move carefully, conserving effort the way a person on a very strict budget conserves money. No sudden sprints. No wasted motion. Every action has a cost. Some animals position themselves strategically, choosing spots where marine snow is more likely to accumulate. Small changes in underwater terrain can create gentle currents that funnel particles into certain areas. Living in the right place can mean the difference between steady meals and long stretches of hunger. In the deep sea, real estate matters. Feeding strategies are equally deliberate. Instead of actively hunting, many animals extend feathery arms, sticky tentacles, or wide, delicate nets to capture falling particles. They do not grab food, they collect it. This turns the entire water column into a slow-moving buffet, where patience replaces speed. Because meals are unpredictable, many deep-sea animals are built to handle long periods without food. Their bodies are efficient, storing energy when it is available and rationing it carefully when it is not. Some can go weeks, months, or even longer between significant meals. Hunger is not an emergency here. It is the default state. This scarcity also shapes size and behavior. Deep-sea animals often grow slowly, taking years to reach maturity. Rapid growth would require more energy than the environment can reliably provide. Instead, life unfolds at a slower pace, measured in long-term survival rather than quick success. Marine snow also creates a subtle connection between surface life and the deep ocean. Events happening far above, like seasonal changes or blooms of microscopic life, eventually influence what drifts down. The deep sea is not isolated, but it receives information and energy on a long delay, like a message sent through time. When a larger food item does arrive, such as the remains of a dead organism sinking from above, it becomes a rare and valuable event. Deep-sea animals are tuned to detect these opportunities quickly, converging from surrounding areas to take advantage of the sudden abundance. These moments are brief, intense, and unpredictable, breaking long stretches of quiet waiting. But even these rare feasts do not change the overall strategy. After the excitement passes, the deep ocean returns to its slow rhythm. Marine snow continues to fall, particle by particle, and animals return to their patient routines. This way of life challenges our usual ideas about survival. On land, speed, strength, and aggression often win. In the deep sea, restraint and efficiency rule. The most successful animals are not the fastest or the fiercest. They are the ones that can wait the longest and waste the least. There is something almost philosophical about this existence. Deep-sea animals live in a world where effort must be justified, where patience is rewarded, and where the smallest scraps sustain entire ecosystems. They do not rush. They do not panic. They trust the slow, steady fall of nourishment from above. Marine snow may look like leftovers drifting into the dark, but it supports a vast, hidden web of life. In the deep ocean, survival is built on crumbs, and patience is the strategy that turns scarcity into stability. If you were to design an animal for the deep ocean using surface world logic, you would probably get it very wrong. You might give it strong muscles, thick bones, and a sturdy frame, something that looks capable and impressive. The deep sea took one look at that idea and politely rejected it. Down here, being tough is less important than being adaptable, and sometimes the best structure is barely having one at all. Many deep-sea animals have bodies that look unfinished by surface standards. They are soft, gelatinous, and strangely delicate. Some appear almost melted, as if gravity forgot to apply itself properly. Others are so transparent you can see their internal organs, which feels invasive until you realize this is exactly the point. In the deep ocean, squishy is not a weakness. It is a strategy. Gelatinous bodies are incredibly efficient in an environment where energy is limited. Building and maintaining dense muscle and heavy skeletons requires a lot of resources. Soft tissues, on the other hand, are cheap. They require less energy to grow and maintain, which is a major advantage when food is scarce and meals are unpredictable. When calories are precious, being lightweight is good financial planning. Transparency offers another clever benefit. In dim environments, visibility is all about contrast. A transparent body creates very little contrast, making it difficult for predators to distinguish an animal from the surrounding water. Instead of hiding behind something, these creatures hide by being almost nothing visually. It is camouflage taken to its logical extreme. Some deep-sea fish are so clear that only their eyes and digestive systems are visible. The rest of the body blends seamlessly into the water, turning the animal into a floating set of organs with a purpose. It looks strange to us, but to a predator scanning for solid shapes, it is practically invisible. Jelly-like creatures take this idea even further. Their bodies are mostly water, held together by simple structures that provide just enough shape to function. This makes them incredibly buoyant, allowing them to drift effortlessly without constant swimming. Movement becomes a gentle glide rather than a muscular effort. In a world where energy is carefully rationed, drifting is a smart lifestyle choice. Being squishy also helps with pressure. Soft bodies compress easily, avoiding damage from the immense weight of the surrounding water. There are no rigid parts to snap or crack. Everything flexes and adjusts naturally. The ocean presses in, and the animal simply says, "Okay," and carries on. Even the way these animals move reflects their environment. Instead of fast bursts or aggressive chases, movement is slow, fluid, and deliberate. They pulse, ripple, or undulate through the water, conserving energy while maintaining control. It is less like running and more like floating with intention. Bones, when they exist at all, are often reduced or modified. Some deep-sea animals have thin, lightly mineralized skeletons that provide minimal support without adding unnecessary weight. Others rely on internal pressure and soft tissues to maintain their shape. Structural integrity becomes a balance rather than a fixed design. These unusual body plans also influence how deep-sea animals interact with their surroundings. Soft bodies are less likely to be damaged by minor collisions or environmental changes. A rigid structure can break. A squishy one simply deforms and returns to shape. Flexibility becomes durability. From a human perspective, these creatures often look fragile, even vulnerable, but that impression comes from applying the wrong standards. In the deep ocean, fragility is not about softness. It is about inefficiency. And these animals are anything but inefficient. Their forms are tailored precisely to the conditions they live in. Low energy availability, high pressure, limited visibility. Every aspect of their bodies reflects these constraints. Nothing is decorative, nothing is extra. Evolution has trimmed away anything that does not directly contribute to survival. There is also something strangely elegant about this simplicity. The deep sea strips life down to its essentials and rebuilds it in forms that make sense for the environment, not for our expectations. Squishy bodies, transparent tissues, and ghostly shapes are not signs of weakness. They are signs of optimization. In a place where bones are optional and strength is measured by efficiency, being soft is not a disadvantage. It is an excellent plan. The deep ocean does not reward looking impressive. It rewards fitting in. And nothing fits the deep sea better than a body that knows when to be solid and when to simply let the water pass through. For most of what we know about life, the sun sits at the center of the story. It fuels plants, which feed animals, which support everything else. Remove sunlight, and the system collapses. At least, that is how the rule is usually taught. Then the deep ocean quietly raises a hand and says, "Actually, there is another option." Hydrothermal vents are cracks in the seafloor where seawater seeps down into the Earth's crust, heats up, and then erupts back into the ocean, loaded with chemicals. These vents are found in some of the deepest, darkest parts of the sea, places where sunlight has never reached and never will. And yet, life here is not just surviving, it is flourishing. The water pouring out of hydrothermal vents can be extremely hot, sometimes hot enough to melt metals, yet the surrounding ocean remains near freezing. This creates sharp gradients in temperature and chemistry, forming a strange, patchwork environment where conditions change dramatically over just a few centimeters. To us, this sounds hostile. To certain organisms, it is opportunity. Instead of relying on sunlight, life at hydrothermal vents is built on chemical energy. The vent fluids are rich in compounds like hydrogen sulfide, which are toxic to most surface-dwelling organisms. But here, these chemicals are fuel. Specialized microbes use them to produce energy through chemical reactions, forming the foundation of an entirely different kind of ecosystem. These microbes are the unsung heroes of the vent world. They convert chemical energy into biological matter, creating food in a place where no light exists. Larger organisms then build their lives around these microbes, either by consuming them directly or by forming partnerships with them. The food web begins not with photosynthesis, but with chemistry. Some vent animals take this partnership to an impressive level. They host these microbes inside their own bodies, providing them with chemicals from the vent fluids and receiving nutrients in return. It is a living power plant arrangement where the animal supplies the raw materials and the microbes handle the energy production. Teamwork, but with extreme conditions. The communities around hydrothermal vents are dense and dynamic. Animals cluster close to the vent openings, balancing the need for chemical-rich water with the risk of extreme heat. Too close, and they cook. Too far, and the energy source fades. Life here exists on a narrow edge, thriving precisely because it can tolerate conditions that would kill almost anything else. What makes hydrothermal vents especially remarkable is how isolated they are. Each vent system is like an island, separated by vast stretches of seafloor. When a vent becomes inactive, the community around it eventually disappears, and new vents must be colonized from scratch. Life here is not permanent, it is opportunistic. This has led to a fascinating kind of biological resilience. Vent organisms are adapted to colonize new sites quickly, grow rapidly, and take advantage of conditions while they last. The deep ocean, often associated with slowness and patience, reveals a different tempo here. Around vents, life can be surprisingly fast-paced, driven by the sudden availability of energy. Hydrothermal vents also challenge our understanding of where life can exist. They demonstrate that sunlight is not the only path to complexity. As long as there is a source of energy and the right chemistry, life finds a way to organize itself. This has expanded how scientists think about life beyond Earth, but even without looking to the stars, the lesson is clear right here in the deep sea. There is something almost rebellious about these ecosystems. While the rest of the planet runs on solar power, hydrothermal vents run on Earth itself. Heat and chemistry rise from the planet's interior, and life grabs hold of it without hesitation. The deep sea did not break the rules. It simply revealed that the rules were incomplete. In the darkness around hydrothermal vents, the ocean feels alive in a different way. Not quiet and patient, but active and intense. Plumes of mineral-rich water billow upward. Animals crowd together, and chemical reactions power an ecosystem that has no need for the sun's approval. Hydrothermal vents remind us that life is not limited by our expectations. It does not require familiarity. It requires opportunity. And in the deep ocean, even in complete darkness, opportunity bubbles up from the Earth itself, proving that life will always find a way to glow, feed, and thrive, even when the sun never shows up. To understand chemosynthesis, it helps to forget everything you were taught about plants for a moment. On land, food begins with sunlight, leaves, and chlorophyll. In the deep ocean, especially in places where sunlight has never arrived, that entire system is politely ignored. Instead, life opens a very different kind of restaurant, one that runs on chemistry instead of light. Chemosynthesis is the process by which certain microbes create food using chemical energy rather than solar energy. Instead of capturing sunlight, these microbes use substances like hydrogen sulfide, methane, or hydrogen that seep out of the seafloor. To most animals, these chemicals are toxic. To chemosynthetic microbes, they are ingredients. Imagine an underwater cafe tucked into the darkest corner of the planet. There is no menu, no decor, and no windows. The specialty of the house is turning poison into dinner. That is essentially what these microbes do. They take chemicals that would kill many surface organisms and convert them into sugars and organic compounds that can be used as food. At the heart of chemosynthesis is a series of chemical reactions that release energy. The microbes harness that energy to build carbon-based molecules, the same basic building blocks used by all life. It is a different power source, but the end result is familiar. Food is created where none should exist. These microbes live in places where chemical energy is abundant. Some cling to rocks where chemical-rich fluids seep out of the seafloor. Others float freely in the water, forming invisible clouds of productivity. Many live in close association with larger animals, forming partnerships that benefit both sides. In these partnerships, the microbes act like in-house chefs. They live inside or on the bodies of animals, producing food directly for their hosts. In return, the animals provide a steady supply of chemicals and a safe place to live. It is a remarkably efficient arrangement. No hunting required. No waiting for scraps to fall from above. Dinner is made on site. What makes chemosynthesis especially impressive is how self-contained it is. These ecosystems do not rely on the surface ocean at all. They do not care about seasons, weather, or sunlight. As long as chemical energy continues to flow from the Earth, the cafe stays open. The scale of this process is easy to underestimate because it happens on a microscopic level. Individual microbes are tiny, but collectively, they form the foundation of entire ecosystems. Without them, life in these chemical-rich environments would collapse. They are the producers, the first link in the food chain, quietly working without recognition. Chemosynthesis also requires specialized adaptations. The enzymes that drive these reactions must function under extreme conditions, including high pressure and variable temperatures. These microbes are not generalists. They are specialists, fine-tuned to extract energy from very specific chemical combinations. There is something deeply elegant about this system. It strips life down to its essentials: energy in, structure built, survival achieved. No sunlight, no leaves, just chemistry and persistence. The deep ocean takes raw materials straight from the planet's interior and turns them into living matter. This process forces us to rethink what it means for an environment to be inhabitable. For a long time, scientists assumed that without sunlight, complex ecosystems could not exist. Chemosynthesis quietly dismantles that assumption. Life does not need light. It needs energy. And energy comes in many forms. The underwater chemistry cafe does not advertise. It does not glow. It does not make noise. But it operates continuously, day and night, turning toxic compounds into nourishment. In doing so, it supports entire communities of animals that have never seen the sun and have no reason to miss it. Chemosynthesis is not an exception. It is an alternative blueprint for life, one that shows how flexible biology can be when given the chance. At the bottom of the world, in complete darkness, microbes are hard at work, brewing food from chemicals, proving that where there is energy, life will always find a way to open shop. The deep ocean has a habit of challenging expectations, and size is no exception. At first glance, it seems logical that animals living in a place with scarce food would be small, compact, and minimal. Yet the deep sea occasionally does the opposite. It produces giants, enormous creatures drifting through darkness, built on a scale that feels almost mythological. Somewhere far below the surface, the deep ocean decided that bigger might actually be better. Deep sea gigantism refers to the tendency for certain animals to grow much larger than their relatives in shallower waters. The most famous example is the colossal squid, a creature so massive and elusive that for a long time it existed more as rumor than reality. But it is not alone. Giant crustaceans, massive jelly-like organisms, and outsized worms all appear in the deep, quietly defying assumptions. So why grow large in a place where food is hard to find? The answer lies in efficiency. Larger bodies are surprisingly good at conserving energy. They lose heat more slowly, move more steadily, and can store energy reserves for long periods. When meals are rare and unpredictable, having the ability to survive long stretches without eating becomes a major advantage. Size also reduces the number of potential predators. In the deep ocean, encounters are infrequent. Being large means fewer things can realistically attempt to eat you. You become less of a snack and more of a risky investment. Even in darkness, size carries authority. Large animals can also travel longer distances more efficiently. A bigger body allows for smoother movement through water, reducing the energy cost per unit of distance. This matters in an environment where food sources are scattered and may require long journeys to find. When you do not know where your next meal is coming from, being able to cover ground efficiently helps. The colossal squid is a perfect illustration of this strategy. With massive eyes designed to detect faint movement in the dark and powerful tentacles built for seizing prey, it is not a fast-paced hunter. It is an ambush specialist. It waits, drifts, and responds when opportunity presents itself. Its size allows it to capitalize on rare encounters, rather than constantly searching. Deep-sea gigantism is also influenced by competition, or rather, the lack of it. In many deep environments, fewer species compete for the same resources. With less pressure to outcompete neighbors through speed or aggression, animals can afford to grow slowly and steadily over long periods. Growth becomes an investment in long-term survival rather than immediate advantage. This slow growth aligns well with the deep ocean's rhythm. Life down here often unfolds on extended timelines. Reaching a large size may take many years, but once achieved, it provides stability. A large body is not easily displaced, and it can weather long gaps between feeding opportunities. There is also an element of ecological niche availability. In the deep sea, certain roles are not crowded. Being large allows an animal to occupy a unique position in the ecosystem, feeding on prey that smaller animals cannot handle, or exploiting resources that require strength or reach. When fewer competitors are around, size becomes a way to claim space. From a human perspective, these giants feel eerie and unnatural, but that reaction says more about us than about them. We are accustomed to associating large size with abundance and activity. In the deep ocean, large size is associated with patience and restraint. These animals are not constantly moving or consuming. They are waiting. The rarity of encounters with deep-sea giants adds to their mystique. They do not form schools or dominate landscapes the way large animals on land do. They exist individually, spread out across vast areas, each one a solitary presence in the dark. The deep ocean does not gather its giants together, it disperses them. Deep-sea gigantism reminds us that evolution does not follow a single rulebook. What works in one environment may be useless in another. In a world of scarcity and silence, growing large is not about dominance. It is about endurance. The giants of the deep are not there to impress. They are there because, in this quiet, resource-limited world, being big makes sense. When meals are rare, competition is low, and time stretches on, size becomes a strategy, not a spectacle. And somewhere in the darkness, enormous creatures continue to drift, perfectly adapted to a world where patience is measured in years, and survival favors those who can wait the longest. Time behaves differently in the deep ocean, not because clocks stop working, but because life itself slows down. In an environment where food is scarce, movement is measured, and change happens gradually, there is little incentive to rush. As a result, some deep-sea animals live extraordinarily long lives, stretching the definition of longevity to lengths that feel almost unreal. Among the most famous examples are certain deep-sea sharks, animals that grow so slowly and age so gradually that they may live for centuries. These sharks were swimming long before modern nations existed, quietly patrolling the depths, while human history sprinted by above them. When people talk about animals outliving empires, this is not poetic exaggeration. It is biology taking its time. Extreme longevity in the deep sea is closely tied to metabolism. Many deep-sea animals operate at a slower metabolic rate than their surface counterparts. Their bodies burn energy conservatively, like a carefully managed savings account rather than a spending spree. Slower metabolism means less cellular wear and tear, which in turn reduces the pace of aging. Growth follows the same principle. Instead of rapid development followed by early maturity, deep-sea animals often grow at a glacial pace. Years can pass with only minor changes in size. Reproduction may not occur until an animal is already decades old. From a human perspective, this sounds inefficient. In the deep ocean, it is stability. Long lifespans also make sense in environments where encounters are rare. Finding mates, locating food, and navigating vast distances all take time. Living longer increases the chances that these critical events will occur. When opportunities are infrequent, extending the timeline improves the odds. There is also less environmental chaos in the deep sea compared to the surface. No seasons, no storms, no sudden temperature swings. Conditions remain relatively constant over long periods. In such a stable environment, there is less pressure to live fast and reproduce quickly. Longevity becomes a reasonable strategy. Cellular processes reflect this slower pace. DNA repair mechanisms in some deep-sea animals appear to be particularly effective, reducing the accumulation of damage over time. Proteins maintain their structure longer. Cells divide less frequently, lowering the risk of errors. Aging does not disappear, but it is politely delayed. From the outside, these animals do not look ancient. A centuries-old shark does not show wrinkles or grey hair. Age is not visible in the way we expect. Longevity in the deep sea is quiet and understated, much like the environment itself. This slow life history also affects how deep-sea populations respond to change. Long-lived animals are often slow to reproduce and recover. While this strategy works well in stable conditions, it can make populations vulnerable to sudden disturbances. When life is built around patience, rapid change is not part of the plan. Yet for millions of years, patience has paid off. Deep-sea animals have persisted through shifts in climate, sea levels, and global conditions that reshaped life at the surface. While continents moved and species came and went, life in the deep continued at its own measured pace. There is something humbling about this contrast. Humans are obsessed with speed, faster technology, quicker results, shorter lifespans packed with activity. The deep sea offers an alternative philosophy. Move slowly, waste little, take your time. These long-lived animals are not chasing success, they are simply enduring. Their existence suggests that longevity is not about resisting death aggressively, but about avoiding unnecessary stress. When life moves slowly, aging gets the memo and slows down too. In the darkness below, time stretches out. Generations overlap in ways we struggle to comprehend. A single individual may witness centuries of gradual change without ever knowing urgency. The deep sea does not reward haste. It rewards persistence. So while empires rise and fall on the surface, deep sea animals continue their quiet lives below, unbothered by the rush above. They are living proof that in the right environment, life does not need to burn brightly to last. Sometimes, it simply needs to keep going, one unhurried moment at a time. In the deep ocean, sound does what light cannot. It moves freely, confidently, and over staggering distances. Where vision fades and touch is impractical, sound becomes the ocean's primary language. The deep sea is not silent. It is acoustically alive, filled with vibrations that travel far beyond anything we experience on land. Water is an excellent medium for sound. Its density allows vibrations to pass through quickly and with little loss of energy. In fact, Sound travels faster in water than in air, and in the deep ocean, certain conditions allow it to travel astonishing distances. Layers of water with different temperatures and pressures bend sound waves, guiding them like invisible rails through the sea. This creates natural acoustic highways. Once a sound enters these layers, it can move horizontally for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. The deep ocean becomes a place where distance shrinks, at least for those who know how to use it. Whales are masters of this environment. Their vocalizations are not just loud, they are strategically designed. Many whale calls are low frequency, which travel farther and lose less energy over distance. When a whale sings, it is not merely making noise, it is broadcasting a message into a medium that is perfectly suited to carry it. These calls can maintain contact between individuals separated by vast expanses of ocean. In a world where seeing another animal may be rare, sound provides reassurance that someone else is out there. It creates connection in a place defined by emptiness. Different species have developed their own acoustic signatures. The pitch, rhythm, and duration of calls vary, allowing animals to recognize one another without ever making visual contact. Sound becomes identity. In the deep ocean, you are what you sound like. Listening is just as important as calling. Many marine animals are finely tuned to detect subtle vibrations. A faint noise can indicate movement, feeding, or danger. Hearing becomes a form of spatial awareness, a way to sense the environment without seeing it. The deep ocean is felt through sound. Humans, by contrast, enter this world cautiously. Submarines are built to withstand pressure and darkness, but inside them, people often lower their voices. This instinctive behavior reflects an understanding that sound carries weight here. It feels inappropriate to be loud in a place where noise travels so far and so clearly. There is also an awareness of vulnerability. Sound reveals presence. In the deep ocean, making noise is like announcing yourself in a dark room. Whales can afford this. They evolved in this environment and understand its rules. Humans are guests, uncertain and aware that the ocean listens differently than we do. Sound behaves unpredictably in the deep. A noise can seem close when it is far away, or disappear entirely when it should be obvious. Layers of water bend and scatter vibrations, creating acoustic illusions. This uncertainty can be unsettling, especially when vision offers no confirmation. Because of this, sound becomes the primary tool for navigation and detection. Humans rely on listening devices to interpret their surroundings, turning vibrations into maps of unseen space. The deep ocean reveals itself through echoes and signals, not through sight. What makes this acoustic world so remarkable is how constant it is. Even when the ocean appears still, sound is moving. Waves far away, shifting ice, distant animals, and geological activity all contribute to a background hum. The deep sea has a soundscape, one that is always changing yet always present. Whales swim through this soundscape with ease. Their calls weave into the ocean's natural noise, traveling along paths shaped by physics and water. Humans descend into it carefully, surrounded by technology, still whispering as if instinctively aware that in the deep ocean, silence and sound are not opposites. They are tools. In the darkness below, sound becomes connection, warning, navigation, and memory. It ties distant places together and allows life to communicate across emptiness. The deep ocean may look quiet from above, but below the surface, it is full of voices, vibrations, and stories, carried effortlessly through the water. Silence in the deep ocean is not the absence of sound. It is the absence of distraction. As you descend away from the surface, the ocean slowly lets go of the noise that defines so much of life above. Waves no longer crash. Wind no longer argues with the water. The frantic overlap of sounds fades until what remains is a vast, steady stillness that feels less like emptiness and more like focus. Scientists often describe the deep ocean as eerie, but not because anything dramatic is happening. It is eerie because so little is happening. The deep sea does not constantly announce itself. It does not rush or compete for attention. It simply exists, and that can be unsettling for creatures accustomed to stimulation. At the surface, chaos is normal. Weather changes quickly. Light flickers. Life moves fast. The deep ocean strips all of that away. There are no seasons marked by temperature swings, no sudden storms, no daily cycles of brightness and shadow. Change happens slowly, almost reluctantly. The environment feels emotionally flat, as if it has settled into a permanent exhale. This calm has a psychological effect on those who visit. Researchers descending in submersibles often report a strange sense of isolation, even when surrounded by water. The silence presses in, not physically, but mentally. Without constant sensory input, the mind turns inward. Every sound becomes noticeable. Every movement feels deliberate. The deep ocean is quiet in a way that feels intentional. It is not the silence of abandonment, but the silence of something that does not need to speak. This can feel intimidating. Humans tend to associate quiet with anticipation, as if something must be about to happen. In the deep sea, nothing is about to happen, and that is the point. This emotional silence also shapes how animals behave. There is no room for constant activity. Movements are slow, purposeful, and minimal. Energy is conserved. Signals are subtle. The environment rewards restraint. Chaos would be wasteful here. Scientists studying the deep ocean often note how different it feels from other extreme environments. Deserts are harsh and loud in their own way. Polar regions creak and groan. The deep ocean, by contrast, feels composed. It is not hostile. It is indifferent. That indifference can feel unsettling because it offers no emotional feedback. There is no sense of being watched, yet there is no sense of being alone either. The silence is full, not empty. It is layered with distant sounds, faint movements, and the quiet presence of life adapted to stillness. The deep sea does not echo with activity, it absorbs it. This quiet also alters perception of time. Without external cues, moments stretch, minutes feel longer, actions feel slower. The deep ocean seems to operate on a different clock, one that is not interested in urgency. This can be disorienting for researchers used to structured schedules and constant monitoring. The eeriness of the deep sea comes from this mismatch. Humans expect extremes to be loud and dramatic. Instead, the deep ocean offers calm. It offers patience. It offers a sense that nothing needs to change anytime soon. That kind of stillness can feel unsettling because it removes us from our usual rhythm. Yet for the organisms that live there, this silence is comforting. It is stable. It is predictable. It is home. The deep ocean does not surprise them. It does not demand constant reaction. It allows life to unfold at a pace that makes sense for limited resources and vast distances. In this way, the deep ocean becomes almost meditative. It invites observation rather than interaction. It rewards those who slow down enough to notice small movements and subtle changes. The quiet is not empty. It is detailed. When scientists return from deep-sea missions, they often describe a lingering sense of calm mixed with unease. The silence stays with them. It challenges assumptions about what an active ecosystem looks like. It suggests that life does not need constant motion to be successful. The deep ocean is eerie not because it is loud or dangerous, but because it is composed. Chaos has been filtered out. What remains is a vast, steady calm that feels ancient and self-sufficient. In that silence, the deep sea reminds us that stillness can be powerful, and that quiet, when it is deep enough, can feel louder than noise. In the deep ocean, chasing prey is usually a bad idea. Energy is precious, visibility is limited, and distances are vast. Sprinting after a meal would burn more calories than the meal is worth. So deep-sea predators have learned a different lesson. Do less. Wait more. Make it count. Predation in the deep sea is built around ambush. Instead of constant motion, predators position themselves carefully and remain almost perfectly still. They blend into the background, becoming part of the darkness. When prey finally wanders close enough, the attack is sudden and decisive. One move, one bite, no second chances. This strategy begins with patience. Deep-sea predators can wait for long periods without eating, conserving energy while monitoring their surroundings. Stillness is not inactivity. It is observation without movement. In the darkness, anything that moves stands out, so predators let the prey announce itself by doing exactly that. Many deep-sea predators have evolved features that support this lifestyle. Large mouths allow them to take advantage of rare opportunities. When a meal finally arrives, it might be the only one for a long time, so being able to swallow it whole is a major advantage. There is no need for delicate bites or careful chewing. Efficiency wins. Some predators have expandable jaws or flexible stomachs that let them consume prey nearly their own size. This is not about greed. It is about planning. When food is scarce, turning down a large meal would be a terrible business decision. Ambush tactics are also supported by sensory adaptations. Deep-sea predators often rely on detecting subtle movements or vibrations rather than visual detail. A slight disturbance in the water can signal opportunity. The attack is triggered not by sight alone, but by the promise of energy. The moment of action is brief. A predator lunges, jaws snap shut, and then stillness returns. There is no prolonged struggle. Prolonged effort wastes energy and attracts attention. The deep ocean rewards clean outcomes. This approach contrasts sharply with surface predators that rely on speed and endurance. On land or in shallow waters, chasing prey can be effective because food is more abundant and the environment is full of obstacles. In the deep sea, there is nowhere to run and no reason to rush. Some predators use deception to enhance their ambush. They may appear harmless, motionless, or even inviting. Prey mistakes them for part of the environment or something edible. By the time the error is realized, it is too late. The deep ocean is not forgiving of curiosity. What makes these predators especially effective is their restraint. They do not attack everything that passes by. That would be wasteful. They wait for prey that is close enough and large enough to justify the effort. Selectivity is part of survival. This also reduces unnecessary risk. In a place where injuries heal slowly and encounters are rare, avoiding conflict matters. Ambush predators minimize damage by ending encounters quickly. One good bite beats a long chase every time. There is a certain calm to this style of predation. It fits the rhythm of the deep ocean. Long periods of stillness, punctuated by brief moments of intensity. The environment does not support constant action, and predators have adapted accordingly. From a human perspective, this can feel unsettling. We expect predators to be active, aggressive, and obvious. Deep-sea predators are none of these things. They are quiet, patient, and efficient. They do not pursue, they receive. This strategy also shapes the behavior of prey. In the deep sea, movement itself is a risk. Many animals drift or move slowly, trying not to draw attention. The predator-prey relationship becomes a delicate balance of motion and restraint, where doing less can be the smartest move. In the deep ocean, survival is not about effort, it is about timing. Predators wait, prey drifts, and the darkness watches. When the moment arrives, everything happens at once, and then the ocean returns to stillness, as if nothing occurred. Patience wins. Minimal movement saves energy, and one good bite is worth far more than chasing food like it owes you money. Humans were not invited to the deep ocean. We arrive unannounced, wrapped in technology, hoping the environment does not notice how fragile we really are. To reach the deep, we climb inside submersibles, compact machines that look less like vehicles and more like survival pods. Once the hatch is sealed, there is no stepping outside. The ocean is no longer scenery. It is a force being held back by engineering and trust. Every deep sea dive begins with patience. Submersibles descend slowly, not because they are timid, but because speed creates problems. Pressure increases steadily, and systems must adjust in sync with the environment. Rushing would stress the structure, confuse instruments, and raise the chance of mistakes. In the deep ocean, mistakes do not come with second chances. As the submersible sinks, daylight fades, replaced by artificial light inside the cabin. The outside view narrows to whatever the external lamps can illuminate. Beyond that cone of light is nothing but darkness. This creates an odd psychological effect. You know the ocean surrounds you in all directions, yet you can only see a tiny slice of it. The rest must be imagined, which is never comforting. Inside the submersible, space is tight. There is no pacing, no stretching, no dramatic gestures. Movements are small and deliberate. Every button press matters. Every adjustment is calculated. The deep ocean does not forgive clumsiness. The hull of the submersible is thick, often spherical, because spheres distribute pressure evenly. This shape is not chosen for comfort or style. It is chosen because it works. As pressure builds, the hull may creak softly. These sounds are normal, expected, and deeply unsettling. Each one is a reminder that the ocean is pushing in with incredible force, and the only thing standing between that force and the humans inside is a few inches of metal. Communication with the surface exists, but it is limited. Signals travel slowly and can be interrupted. If something goes wrong, help is far away. This isolation sharpens focus. It also humbles everyone inside. The deep ocean makes it clear that rescue is not guaranteed. Navigation is careful and precise. Stirring up sediment can turn clear water into a blinding cloud, eliminating visibility entirely. Once that happens, orientation becomes difficult. The deep sea does not offer landmarks the way land does. One wrong movement can erase the view and force a slow, careful wait for particles to settle. Despite all this caution, the moment when the seafloor comes into view is unforgettable. Rocks, strange life forms, and unexpected movement appear in the lights. These are places no human has ever seen directly, and that realization carries weight. The fear does not vanish, but it shares space with awe. Submersibles move slowly across the seafloor, hovering rather than driving. Thrusters are used sparingly. The goal is observation, not disruption. The deep ocean is not a place to dominate. It is a place to witness. Every system inside the submersible is monitored constantly. Power, oxygen, temperature, structural integrity. Nothing is assumed. Redundancy exists because failure is not an option. The deep ocean is not impressed by confidence. Even simple tasks take longer. Collecting samples, adjusting cameras, repositioning the vehicle, all require careful coordination. Time stretches, minutes feel longer. The deep sea sets the pace, and humans follow. When it is time to ascend, the process is just as slow. Pressure must be released gradually. The submersible rises through layers of darkness, then faint light, then full color. Returning to the surface feels like waking from a long, focused dream. Exploring the deep ocean is not adventurous in a loud, cinematic way. It is quiet, methodical, and tense. The fear is not panic. It is respect. Every dive carries the understanding that humans are visitors in a place that does not need us. Inside the metal bubble, explorers experience something rare. Not just discovery, but humility. The deep ocean allows us to look, briefly, carefully, and only because we asked politely with technology. That is why every dive is slow, careful, and just a little terrifying. For all our technology, curiosity, and confidence, humans know remarkably little about the deep ocean. We have mapped distant planets in greater detail than much of the seafloor beneath our own waves. This is not because the ocean is unimportant, but because it is vast, difficult to access, and very good at keeping secrets. Imagine owning a massive library filled with books stretching floor to ceiling. You recognize the building, you know the shelves exist. You may even know the titles of a few volumes near the entrance, but most of the books remain sealed shut, their pages unread, their contents unknown. That is our relationship with the deep ocean. We have explored only a small fraction of it directly. Most of what we know comes from brief visits, remote instruments, or indirect measurements. Entire regions remain unseen by human eyes. There are mountains, valleys, plains, and ecosystems that have never been observed in detail. They exist quietly, without witnesses. The challenge is scale. The deep ocean covers an enormous portion of the planet. Its sheer size makes comprehensive exploration unrealistic with current technology. Each expedition requires significant resources, careful planning, and a willingness to accept limited returns. One dive might reveal a handful of new observations, while countless other areas remain untouched. Distance adds another layer of difficulty. The deep ocean is not just far down, it is far from everywhere. Many regions are remote, far from land, and difficult to reach. Logistics alone can take weeks. By the time a submersible reaches its target, much of the mission has already been spent just getting there. Then there is time. Deep sea exploration moves slowly. Each descent and ascent takes hours. Observations are deliberate and cautious. Compared to surface research, progress feels incremental. The deep ocean does not reward speed. Because of this, large portions of the deep sea are known only through coarse maps and general patterns. We know where major features are, but not what lives there, how ecosystems function, or how they change over time. The fine details remain locked away. This lack of knowledge is not a failure, it is a reflection of the environment. The deep ocean is not easily observed, and it does not offer quick answers. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to accept uncertainty. What makes this especially striking is how important the deep ocean is to the planet as a whole. It influences global systems, supports unique life, and plays a role in long-term stability. And yet, much of it remains unstudied. We rely on something we barely understand. Each new exploration adds a few more open books to the library. New species are described. Unexpected ecosystems are discovered. Old assumptions are challenged. But for every page read, thousands remain unread. There is also a sense of humility in this realization. Humans often assume that exploration leads to completion, that with enough effort, everything will eventually be known. The deep ocean suggests otherwise. Some places resist full understanding, not because they are hostile, but because they are vast. The sealed books metaphor also highlights potential. Every unexplored region represents unknown interactions, adaptations, and histories. The deep ocean is not empty space waiting to be filled with knowledge. It is full, already complex, already functioning, regardless of whether we understand it. This uncertainty fuels scientific curiosity. The unknown is not a gap to be feared, but an invitation. Each unanswered question suggests another chapter waiting to be read. At the same time, there is a responsibility that comes with ignorance. Decisions affecting the ocean are often made without full understanding of deep sea systems. Protecting something we barely know is a challenge, but it is also an opportunity to approach the unknown with caution rather than confidence. The deep ocean does not demand attention. It does not advertise its mysteries. It simply exists, holding on to its stories. We own the library, but we have only just stepped inside. Most of the books remain sealed shut, not because they are hidden, but because opening them takes time, care, and respect. And perhaps the deep ocean is reminding us that knowledge is not always about conquering the unknown. Sometimes it is about acknowledging how much there still is to read. The deep ocean feels endless and indestructible, but that impression is misleading. Its ecosystems are not built for frequent disturbance. They are built for stability. When change finally arrives, it arrives slowly, and recovery moves even slower. Life in the deep sea develops under consistent conditions. Temperatures remain steady, currents are gentle. Resources arrive unpredictably but gradually. Over time, ecosystems form that depend on this long-term calm. When something disrupts that balance, the system does not bounce back quickly. It waits. Damage in the deep ocean can linger for centuries. Not because life is weak, but because growth is slow. Many deep-sea organisms develop over long spans of time. They mature gradually, reproduce infrequently, and rely on stable surroundings. When these organisms are removed or habitats are disturbed, replacing them is not a quick process. Physical damage to the seafloor is especially long-lasting. Sediments that have settled gently over thousands of years can be displaced in moments. Once disturbed, they may take centuries to resettle in the same way. The environment does not reset, it remembers. Because energy is limited in the deep ocean, rebuilding takes time. New organisms must arrive, survive, and establish themselves in a place where competition is quiet but persistent. There is no rapid recolonization. The system inches forward, one slow step at a time. This fragility often surprises people. The deep ocean seems distant and resilient simply because it is hard to reach. But resilience depends on the ability to recover, not the ability to endure isolation. In the deep sea, endurance is high, but recovery is measured in long timelines that do not align with human expectations. Even small disturbances can have outsized effects. Removing a single structural feature can alter local flow patterns or eliminate shelter. In a place where organisms depend on subtle environmental cues, these changes matter. The ecosystem does not adapt quickly. It adapts carefully, if at all. Scientists studying disturbed deep-sea areas often find that signs of damage persist decades later. Tracks remain visible. Community composition shifts. The original balance does not return easily. The deep ocean does not forget. This slow recovery is tied to the deep sea's rhythm. Everything moves at a reduced pace. Metabolism, growth, reproduction, and change all follow extended timelines. The environment is not designed for rapid response. It is designed for continuity. Understanding this changes how we think about impact. In many surface environments, damage can be severe, but recovery can begin within years or decades. In the deep ocean, the same damage may effectively be permanent on human timescales. What feels temporary to us is lasting down there. This creates a challenge for decision-making. Actions taken in moments can shape ecosystems for centuries. The deep ocean does not offer quick feedback. By the time consequences are fully understood, they may be irreversible. The fragility of deep-sea ecosystems does not mean they are delicate in the traditional sense. They are not easily upset by natural variation. They are fragile because they are slow. Their strength lies in consistency, not flexibility. This also means that protection must be proactive. Waiting to fix damage after it occurs is rarely effective. Prevention matters more when recovery is measured in geological time rather than human lifespans. The deep ocean operates on a scale that does not match our urgency. It does not respond to short-term planning or quick solutions. It requires long-term thinking and restraint. When we disturb the deep sea, we are not just changing a place. We are altering a timeline. We are interrupting processes that began long before us and will continue long after. Recovery will happen, eventually, but not on a schedule we will ever witness. In the deep ocean, time stretches. Damage lingers. Healing is slow. Understanding this fragility is not about fear. It is about respect for an environment that plays the long game, where centuries pass like moments, and where every disturbance leaves a mark far deeper than we might expect. The deep ocean has a way of quietly rewriting the rules we think life follows. On the surface, survival often looks like speed, aggression, and constant competition. Faster is better, bigger wins. Movement equals success. But descend far enough, and those assumptions begin to unravel. In the deep sea, speed is expensive, strength is heavy, constant motion wastes energy. Life here follows a different philosophy, one built around efficiency, patience, and subtlety. Survival is not about dominating the environment. It is about fitting into it. This shift in perspective forces us to rethink what it means to be successful as a living organism. In the deep ocean, the winners are not always the most active or powerful. They are the ones that last. Longevity, restraint, and clever use of limited resources become the true measures of success. Many deep-sea organisms operate on minimal energy budgets. They move slowly, if at all. Their lives unfold at a measured pace. This is not laziness. It is strategy. Every movement is weighed against its cost. If something does not need to be done, it simply is not done. Light itself becomes optional. Instead of relying on external illumination, some organisms produce their own, not to impress, but to communicate, confuse, or quietly exist. Glowing softly in the darkness is not about standing out. It is about control. Light is used sparingly, like a carefully chosen word in a long silence. Waiting becomes a skill. In a place where opportunities are rare, patience is not passive. It is active survival. Deep sea life often involves long stretches of stillness, punctuated by brief, meaningful moments. The environment rewards those who can endure without urgency. This challenges a common human bias. We tend to equate action with progress. If something is not visibly moving or changing, we assume it is failing. The deep ocean suggests the opposite. Stability can be a sign of success. Even growth follows this pattern. Many deep-sea organisms grow slowly, taking years or decades to reach maturity. There is no rush. The environment does not demand it. When conditions are stable, speed offers little advantage. Consistency matters more. This way of life also reframes competition. Instead of constant direct conflict, many deep-sea organisms coexist by minimizing overlap. They occupy specific niches, use resources carefully, and avoid unnecessary encounters. Survival is less about winning and more about not losing. The deep ocean reminds us that life adapts not toward a single ideal, but toward what works in a given context. There is no universal blueprint for success. What thrives in one environment may fail completely in another. Strength and speed are tools, not guarantees. This perspective can feel humbling. Humans often celebrate extremes. Fastest, strongest, loudest. The deep ocean celebrates the opposite. Quiet, patient, efficient. It suggests that resilience does not always announce itself. There is also a lesson in vulnerability. Many deep-sea organisms appear fragile by surface standards. Transparent bodies, delicate forms, soft structures, yet they persist in an environment that would instantly destroy most surface life. Strength takes many forms, and not all of them are obvious. By observing these lives, we are reminded that survival is not a single story. It is a collection of strategies shaped by environment and time. The The deep ocean simply happens to favor strategies that feel counterintuitive to us. This realization extends beyond biology. It challenges how we think about success, progress, and resilience more broadly. Sometimes the best response to a harsh environment is not to fight it, but to adapt quietly. The deep ocean does not reward those who rush. It rewards those who wait. It does not favor constant growth. It favors balance. Life down there glows softly, moves carefully, and survives not by force, but by understanding its limits. In that darkness, survival is not loud, it is subtle. And in learning to appreciate that, we gain a broader, more generous understanding of what life can be. The deep ocean does not demand attention. It does not sparkle at the surface or announce its presence with drama. Most of it lies hidden beneath layers of water, out of sight and out of mind. And yet, without it, the world above would be unrecognizable. The deep sea works quietly, steadily, and constantly, shaping the planet in ways we rarely notice. It is easy to think of the deep ocean as separate from daily life. It feels remote, unreachable, and irrelevant to anything happening on land. But this distance is an illusion. The deep sea is connected to everything. It is part of a continuous system that links surface waters, atmosphere, and life across the globe. The deep ocean acts as a vast stabilizer. It absorbs heat, redistributes energy, and moderates long-term planetary conditions. These processes happen slowly, over long periods, and without visible spectacle. There are no headlines announcing that the deep sea did its job today. It simply does. What makes this contribution remarkable is how unassuming it is. The deep ocean does not roar. It hums. It does not rush. It waits. Its influence is measured not in moments, but in centuries. This kind of importance is easy to overlook in a world obsessed with immediacy. Life in the deep ocean reflects this role. It exists without needing attention. It thrives without recognition. Entire ecosystems function beyond human awareness, performing roles that support the larger system without ever being seen. The deep sea does not care whether we notice it. It operates regardless. This quiet support extends upward. The conditions that allow surface life to flourish are tied, in part, to processes happening far below. The deep ocean stores, balances, and buffers, acting as a foundation beneath the more visible parts of the planet. Remove that foundation, and the structure above begins to wobble. There is a certain poetry in this. The most important work is often the least visible. The deep ocean embodies this idea perfectly. It is not flashy. It is not fast. It is reliable. This also makes the deep sea vulnerable to neglect. Because it does not demand attention, it is easy to forget. Decisions are made without considering it. Impacts occur without immediate feedback. The deep ocean absorbs consequences quietly, sometimes too quietly, for us to realize what is being lost. Understanding the importance of the deep sea requires a shift in perspective. It asks us to value what we cannot easily see. It challenges us to care about processes that unfold slowly and without spectacle. It reminds us that silence does not equal insignificance. The deep ocean has been here long before humans, and it will likely remain long after. Its role is not dependent on our awareness, but our future is, in part, dependent on it. Recognizing that connection is not about control, it is about appreciation. There is something humbling about knowing that the planet's most vital systems operate without applause. The deep sea does not ask for credit. It does not advertise its contributions. It simply continues, steady and patient, like an introverted hero, content to work in the background. As we end this journey into the quiet depths, the message is not one of fear or urgency, but of respect. The deep ocean is not a mystery to be solved quickly, or a resource to be exploited casually. It is a foundational part of the planet's story. While it feels distant and silent, it is deeply involved in the world we experience every day. The air we breathe, the climate we live in, and the stability we often take for granted are connected, in ways both direct and subtle, to the depths below. The deep ocean may never trend, never shout, and never ask for recognition, but it remains essential. In its silence, it supports everything above it, quietly doing the work that keeps the planet functioning, and that perhaps makes it the most important hero we rarely think about.